And now on to our next guest speaker, Bruce Pon, founder at Ocean Protocol. We're going to talk about data decentralization lessons learned. Let's deep dive into what those lessons were. Bruce.
Morning, everybody. Welcome. It's great to be here. Is this the clicker? Okay, perfect. Okay, good. So we started our journey 9 years ago to unlock a data economy. And as one of the original blockchain and crypto startups here in Berlin, we never expected it to be easy. And we've come a long way and learned a lot, but it's clear we have a lot to go. We're only at the beginning. But just to kind of give the overview, and I think it's useful for us as this community now that's emerging, is to talk about what we want to achieve. Number one is to respect the ownership rights of data owners, to allow consumers to directly support the creators of the data, and then to leverage this groundbreaking technology of crypto and blockchain as a payment currency, as an orchestration mechanism, and as the immutable transparency layer. So I'm going to tell you, take some time to tell you how we're doing. And just overall, let's start with the good news. Crypto is here to stay. At the peak, we hit $3 trillion in market value, which is about 1/4 of the value of the valuation of gold. There's 150 million wallets globally. The internet hit this milestone in 1997. That's 25 years ago. And Paul Krugman, an economist, famously compared the internet to fax machines and predicted a short technology lifespan of the internet. But Krugman was wrong. Indeed, we're about to hit a once in a human history moment that will never happen again. 25 years after hitting 150 million users, we're now adding 20 million users every single month, and by next year, 2/3 of all humans will be connected to the internet. And one of the biggest drivers of internet growth was the smartphone. It seems like forever, but the iPhone was only released in 2007. 2007. And that's only 15 years ago. So now it's wed into our lives and all these smartphones. And I cannot imagine life without the smartphone. And it was the smartphone that got the internet truly started on mass adoption. And so the question I had coming into this talk was, what is going to be the big catalyst for crypto? No one knows. But there's a couple of data points. First, we know that we are right. Crypto is an unstoppable force like the internet. And the question is timing. How long will it take? What are the thousands of incremental steps in between now and 25 years from now that will open the pathway to general adoption? Is there something that's going to light a fire? And one of the indicators was that in 1990, when you could say the internet essentially started, there were 500,000 programmers globally, mostly working on mainframe computers and research. Now there's 40 million. It's about 100x growth in 30 years. It takes time to build up a cadre of developers and stuff like that. But when I was looking at these figures, I realized how valuable programmers and data scientists are. There's not a lot of you in this world. And you are vitally important to promoting this technology. You could essentially say that the developers, data scientists, and programmers have essentially enabled the internet revolution until now. And we're only just beginning. We need to get up to several hundred million developers to understand the user experience, the interaction, the tools, the apps, and all the things that are now coming with AI, Web3, and such like that. So for today, in crypto, there's about 100,000 smart contract developers. It's about 1/5 of the number of developers that was there at the start of the internet. And so we're still at the bleeding edge. Any of you who've been in the space for more than a few years or just recently joined, you might feel that crypto has already exploded 10,000x. You're still at the beginning. You're at the very beginning. We got 25 more years of growth until this is broadly accepted globally. So that's kind of the broadest message of what I can say here just to start with. But of course, 99% of all crypto startups are going to fail. It's not going to be an easy path. And the best use cases for crypto are still waiting to be discovered. And the difference, though, between 1990 and now is that we have an installed base of essentially 45 million developers who already understand the basics of user experience, user interaction, and the tooling to make it so that the 5 to 7 billion users are able to touch that technology and resonate with them. So let's talk specifically about data, because data, in my mind right now, is an interesting animal, because Web 2 data tooling is only now hitting its stride, right? Data, in the form that it's being generated now, only came with the internet, right? This unstructured data, all this stuff coming through, and then with mobile data and all this different type of analytics, the user experience and collecting information on how people are interacting, and then just the actual apps themselves collecting this data, it's all brand new. And only now we're getting these mass scalable tools based off Web 2 to manage and process this data. At the same time, we have Web 3 coming, and we have all of you as startups looking at how to solve this data problem, because we know that Web 3 gives a unique feature for transparency, immutability, and governance and ownership of your data and the data of the people who are generating it. And that's an advantage over Web 2. And so Web 3 data cannot be detached from Web 2 data. That's one of the big learnings right now. We actually have to somehow work with and integrate with the Web 2 data. And so, you know, we have the databases, data warehouses, data lakes, it's all around us. We currently have 3 million data scientists around the globe. That's, as we see, it's like 10% of the installed base of developers. Many of the data scientists and such are also programmers themselves, so there's a little bit of overlap. But right now, their insights are really fed into things like marketing, financial data, and also product improvement. And then it's in some ways fed into selling you more. It's based off the advertising model. It's not based on sovereign data ownership. And I think that most of the people in this room are looking at data in a way that gives us sovereign data ownership and gives us a way to monetize our data. So there's also going to be a paradigm shift, but the tools in the installed base is going to be something that we as a community can leverage. And so our research shows that data is being monetized as follows. It is packaged into applications, dashboards, and trading systems for people to speculate on financial products. We're already seeing this as the first wave of data products in Web 3. This has already been going on for decades, like Bloomberg, Reuters, all these types of household names. And that is the way that you take raw data and turn it into something. You have to turn it into some sort of subscription service, a terminal, a platform. That is one of the few ways that you can monetize data nowadays. Another way that you can do it is reports and narratives. So you have research reports like Forrester, Gartner, all these people. They offer consulting services on top of reports that they generate, analytics that they generate, as kind of what do you call it? A way to get people into the door, and then they sell subscription services and consulting based on that. And then finally, data that is used to find decision makers for procurement, for buying, business data, and contact data is actually extremely valuable. So these are actually the three ways that data is bought and sold. You have financial data for speculation, you have things for reports and narratives, which is highly valuable, and then you finally have kind of product data and people data that is worth a lot. That is the majority of data being sold, and a lot is based on US and Western countries right now. So it's not really being sold for data and AI. It's a very nascent market, and typically the AI is gathered and stored by the same user. You've all heard of things like Google, Apple, Netflix, and all that sort of stuff. The data that is being used, which is fully integrated for AI, is within one company. And that is one thing that we, as kind of the community, are trying to unlock so that people get control of their data, and then that data then gets dispersed to others so that they can monetize it in the way they want. And on top of that, we want to expose the other 95% of the data that is available outside of these vertically integrated companies that also have AI capability, because we know that there is a current kind of, if you look at it from a bubble perspective, there's data, like AI researchers, and there's people who have data. And the intersection point are Google, Apple, Amazon, and stuff. But there's a big discrepancy between the AI researchers and the data holders. And if we can find tools that allow them to come together, then we're going to be able to sidestep this group of companies and open up data for a lot more people. So we think that tools based on AI will emerge that allow the data to be processed if we can use Web3 as kind of the base layer, right? To bring those two together, we're going to need ways and that have this transparency, this orchestration that doesn't compromise the AI nor the data. And I actually believe that AI DAOs will be one of the key factors to allow for this type of stuff to happen. So where does this place Ocean? Until now, what we've done has been very Web3 focused. We've fulfilled all the promises that we had in 2017 until now, and now we're a little bit at the crossroads. We built things like data tokens, data NFTs, the orchestration of Ocean and smart contracts, as well as the middleware tooling. And we've learned that the intricacy of the data economy, we've talked about the intricacies, the pioneering concepts, and the current state of Web3 adoption. And right now, it's not that pretty. Mindaugas talked earlier about this Web3 user experience in MetaMask being a really difficult thing. We see this too. When somebody has to click 5 times, they're scared they're losing their money. They're scared they're signing away their wallet. And that's not a user experience that we want. There's no adoption until we solve that. Number 2, fiat to crypto on and off ramps. Something simple for people so that they can see the money in their bank account. But what we've also seen is that the key to adoption, specifically in the Web3 world, is to help them assemble various data sources where there's a connective tissue between the AI and the data. There's tooling, there's DevOps, and we think that Ocean could act as that connective tissue for the orchestration of multiple different Web3 tools that are emerging, as well as existing Web2 tools that people use and are familiar with. That is one way that I think that we as a community can start getting people who are already deep into the data space to work. Another thing that we found, which is interesting, is a lot of companies have data, and they don't know how to use it. So data challenges has been hugely popular. We have kind of a backlog of at least a dozen companies that want to run data challenges on their own data. And so one of our needs is to bring in the data owners with data scientists to look at it together and try to find the nuggets of value. And I've previously talked a lot about Gold Corp, where they turned kind of the struggling gold mine into a $10 billion gold mine juggernaut because they opened up their data at their own risk. And then finally, we have, just like what the Ethereum community did, the Bitcoin community did, we need to have more events like this. And maybe this becomes the consensus event for the decentralized data world in the future, but we need to activate a broad community of people who are in the Web2 space, in the Web3 space, to start evangelizing, for lack of a better term, on data and how Web3 can be that unique factor, but not put Web3 in the forefront. Because as we've seen, for data, it's not about speculation, it's not about the money. Of course, people want to monetize, But when we're dealing with the AI and the data scientists, it's about utility. What value are they getting from the data? And then the money just comes out on the backside. And so this is where we're looking at for Ocean and working with all of you to make happen. So that's my talk.
Excellent presentation, Bruce. Now moving on to Q&A. And like before, a microphone will be going around to anybody who has questions. Who has questions? Yes, sir.
I don't know.
Thank you. Data and if it's connected to natural persons, human beings, is a privacy issue. And you have privacy laws that are vastly different in different areas of the world. You have very strict privacy provisions in the European Union. You have things in California. You have countries that take no stance at all, like in parts of the developing world. Are you, in your planning, addressing these issues at all, or are you taking the approach as many Web3 projects that you say, we build the technology first and worry about regulations later?
I think the whole point of Web3 is to give people back control of what's theirs, digital, whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, NFTs, and all that sort of stuff, and data is no different. I mean, we started 9 years ago with the idea of, we knew GDPR was coming. How do we make it so that you have just a better UX? Because we all know all those cookies that you have to click, it sucks. It's a failed implementation of a good-hearted policy, right? GDPR, in essence, was good, of people needing to own their data, but everything after that was crap. And so with Web3, you get around the privacy because the people are opting in. They're giving permission, they're consenting, they're withdrawing consent if that data is misused. There's European law to protect them, right, where they can go after, go for penalties and such like that. But Web3 is the path where we open up all this private data, where people know what's happening to their data, and they understand the economic deal that they're going to enter into. And that's all we want. We don't need people, we don't need this type of heavy-handed governance to control private data and to force companies to control private data. You just need the general law. If you violate people's rights, you have to pay. And if you're going to use data, you needed consent. If we had just those two rules, that would already be enough. And then we let the technology help solve that. And I think that Web3 is the perfect technology.
Thank you.
And any remaining questions? Last comments? All right. Thank you very much, Bruce.
Thank you.
Excellent presentation.